Welcome back to this episode of Massholes with Mikes, another Patriots win episode. Yes, we have a full cast here today. Jordan, Kyle, Jaclyn, and myself, Jeremy, here to react to what was a pretty dull game, but we're going to keep it big picture for most of the episode. But we do have to start kind of just regular talk, obviously. Patriots beating the Panthers 24-6 on Sunday, time of this recording yesterday. Mac Jones, not particularly overwhelming. Sam Darnold, very underwhelming, as we all thought. Some people, Big Jim Murray included, tweeted out when Adam Schefter tweeted out Sam Darnold will be the Panthers starter today. A lot of people said, all right, game over. And lo and behold, they were kind of right. Obviously, the Patriots kind of steamrolled the Panthers. They never really got on track, even with the return of Christian McCaffrey. But we are going to start, as we always do, 3 up and 3 down. And Kyle wanted to start early on. So, Kyle, I'm going to ask you to list out your 3 ups and then talk about the one that you most want to discuss. So, take it away.
Of course. My 3 ups were Jamie Collins, number 1. Not like in any order, just how I wrote them down. Jamie Collins, J.C. Jackson, even though last week I spent most of my week slandering the hell out of him because I am nothing if not knee-jerk and very reactionary, so that's who I am. And number 3 is the great Ram Bam Baby Blount, Ramondre Stevenson. Finally get the action, and it's like a legitimate up, too, because he led the team in rushing, he led the team in receiving, he was the first player of the running backs to get injured, he was just out there
he was a
absolutely
leader.
Dominating every facet of the game.
And you know what good leaders do? They have followers, and Damian Harris also left with a head injury.
He led by example by showing Damian Harris which part of his body he should injure this time to set up Brandon Bolden to be the only running back on the roster next week. Because you know J.J. Taylor will be inactive still.
That's a good point.
I would have even said that this was the week that J.J. Taylor loses his job if, Harris and Stevenson didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
I don't think you would have ever seen Taylor play again. But, I mean, should I talk about him now, or should I let others?
Go into it. Yeah.
I was gonna say that I was really impressed with him. I mean, I missed the first half, so I missed at least watching live some of his bigger highlights. But he just showed why he is. I think and I was talking about this with other people. I think he is the perfect companion for Damian Harris. Because Damian Harris is just he's just a good running back. Just pure, just one fast. He's really good at one thing, and that is just running the ball. You get him, you can count on him to fight for some yards. He's quick, so he can be a little elusive, and that's his game. But he's not really that versatile outside of that. And Ramondre Stevenson isn't the best pure running back, but he's very versatile, and he's strong, so he can be that bell cow and really ground and pound and get those yards. He's also very quick. He's agile. You can use him out of the passing game, and he pretty much showed why the Patriots spent I believe it was a 4th-round pick on him in this game, because he was great in the pass game. Had that 40-yard, I think it was 44 yards or something like that.
I think it was 41.
41-yard reception where, he showed off, look, you can use him like Rex Burkhead out of the backfield. Not like James White because it's a little different, but a little bit more like Rex Burkhead out of the backfield. You can get that. He can fight for yards, be a little elusive, pick up speed once he starts running downhill. And then he showed off on that one play where he absolutely sunned that DB. Revenge for week 1 when he got planted by whoever on the Dolphins planted him. It was a perfect response play, and he showed that he can be just like, LeGarrette Blount. That's why they call him Baby Blount, because, he's quick, he's agile, but he's also pretty strong, and he absolutely sent that cornerback into the ringer. I was really happy for him. I was very disappointed they got hurt, because that seemed like a game where they would have kind of just let him run for the rest of the game and be like, all right, well, this game's kind of over. Just, keep going at it. Hoping he'll be healthy next week, because if Harris's injury looked a lot worse than Stevenson, so if that ends up being the case, I hope that he can be back and can get some starting reps.
All right.
Sorry for going long.
Hey, no. As the Sooner guy here, you absolutely deserved it. Stevenson definitely had his moment, and I'm sure that we all probably had him on our ups. Jordan, I'm going to let you talk about your ups next, and then if Jaclyn has anything to add on, but otherwise I think me and her are probably going to take the downs. So, Jordan, go right ahead.
Yeah, I had Ramondre Stevenson as my first up. My second up was his running mate there, Brandon Bolden. Definitely deserved to be an up. That dude's been awesome this year. And the one that I'm going to highlight is the tandem of Matt Judon and Christian Barmore. those two just live in the backfield. Like I made the tweet last week about, like that Judon gets held basically every single play, and it was a picture of Lawrence Taylor, and I said this is what society would be like if this is what Judon would be like if he didn't get held on 95% of snaps. He's been awesome. He have 9 sacks now this season? Barmore didn't register a sack, but like I said, he lives in the backfield with Judon, and he's getting better every single week. And Bill Belichick even said it in the postgame press conference. And when he, really kind of goes out of his way to talk about how great a rookie's been. He designates like 2 minutes to just talk about how good he's been. He's putting in the work. But I was told he was too stupid, and that's why he went in the second round. That was the big thing. He was dumb and he was lazy, but looks like that was a lot of garbage. At the end of the day, he's been awesome, as has Judon, and that tandem gets better and better every week.
Sounds like the scouts were dumb and lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Jaclyn, did you have anything to add to the ups?
I had one up that's not necessarily game related.
Okay.
My up was Bill Belichick's pre-game outfit.
Oh, that's a great point.
That was my up.
Man.
His fashion sense, incredible. Heading into his
Locked
old quarterback's home. The quarterback who was known for his fashion sense. And Bill Belichick pulls up looking like that. What a snack. That's all I'm going to say.
All we needed was some sunglasses and a hat.
He really set the tone early, is what you're saying.
He set
as
the
he was
tone
coming down
for
the
the
tunnel.
day. He set the tone. I want that fit. That's all I'll say.
You guys already said all of my ups. I had Stevenson. I had Barmore. One guy I just wanted to add on quickly as an honorable mention. Van Noy looked a lot better than he has the last couple of weeks. Knocking down passes, making plays in the backfield, so I'll give him credit. It's starting to look like that linebacker group is starting to come around a little bit, including Hightower, who still looks slow, but he's getting there. Slowly but surely he's getting there. Yes, Kyle.
And I do want to say I had Jamie Collins on my ups, and I think I was the only one who actually said it, but I'm sure you guys might have had him. But I just want to say he had an interception, a fantastic interception, incredible athletic play, forced a fumble that was recovered by the Panthers. In coverage, he was allowed 1 completion for -3 yards. And I think he also had a QB hurry and 3 tackles in that game. So, absolute monster performance. What a great pickup for the Pats.
Maybe he'll learn his lesson this time and he'll stay in New England and not go chase the bag. Which he deserves to. If he gets it, he deserves to chase it. But
he got his bag. I think did he win a ring with the Pats?
Yes, he did.
Yes, he got a ring. He got his bag, and now he's back for part 2, man.
Like we joked about this before we started the show. Kyle does his Mr. Wonderful pose, and all roads lead Jamie Collins back to Mr. Wonderful. But in this case, it's Bill Belichick.
All right, Jaclyn, downs. I'm going to let you lead here.
Yeah.
Do you have any ones that you want to spotlight?
Jacoby Myers, I think, is a down. That was mostly just because he was getting most of the coverage from Stephon Gilmore. I think he only had 1 catch for 8 yards in this game. Not really what you'd love to see from someone who can be considered your number 1 receiver. Another down that I had was Mac Jones. I just don't think that he had his best game. He had 1 fumble for loss. He also had an interception to Stephon Gilmore. And after that fumble, he had that kind of dirty play, which honestly, I wasn't too upset about. I just think that if he does continue to play dirty like that, he has to be prepared to get it back. And that scares me.
Should have done it to the guy in the Chargers instead.
Yeah.
So the guy who gave him the late hit. He was a week late on that.
Yeah, exactly. So
he probably just recovered from it.
Yeah, seriously.
I think that he definitely, in comparison to the Chargers game, may have stepped it up a little bit, but I don't know. It just wasn't a fantastic game for Jones. But again, that is kind of it's good to know that the Patriots can still win when he's going through his rookie growing pains. And then that was really all that I can think of. I also, full disclosure, only watched the highlights of this game, so there's definitely a lot that
we don't give people a peek behind the curtain, Jack.
Hey,
we don't gotta
full
get into
disclosure. I watched the whole game, guys. Don't worry. Don't worry.
Now we're getting somewhere. All right, my downs now. I had 3. Jacoby Myers, obviously. Mac Jones, obviously. Both of those guys sucked. Nelson Aguilar, I don't believe, registered a catch.
Nope.
but I don't think that was necessarily due to him. I think that was definitely the offensive game plan. If they needed to throw in the second half, they could. They could have. I'm trying to look at it right now and figure it out, but I think Mac Jones only completed one ball in the entire second half. They really went into ultra conservative mode, partially because they could. I mean, they knew they had Sam Darnold on the other side. So I don't know if that was necessarily by design or if it was because Mac Jones was struggling, but either way, wasn't great. But my big down, the one that I wanted to talk about, was one I actually brought up earlier in the chat, the broadcast team. Thank God the Patriots are returning to relevancy a little bit. I'm so done with the D, E, F, and G broadcast teams for networks. No more Greg Gumbel, please. He sucks. I know we talked about it on the J.C. Jackson pick 6, but he was screaming that it was Justin Bethel taking it to the house.
Never corrected it.
Could
No.
you imagine if it was?
Yeah.
Could you imagine
honestly.
if Justin Bethel had a pick 6 in an NFL football game?
That would be bananas.
I mean, like
But-
Matt Slater catching a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
I think he's caught one touchdown. Was it a helmet?
No, it wasn't. He didn't catch a touchdown. He scored a special teams touchdown.
I just looked it up, by the way. Yes, Mac Jones completed one pass in the second half, and it was 18 yards to Kendrick Bourne.
How many
That was it.
attempts did he have though?
About six to eight, I think. There's one little
Yikes.
stretch in here where he has 3 straight incomplete passes.
That's not good.
But
So not a lot, but also not good.
yes, not great. Anyway, the broadcast team. Second, and the other most glaring issue, and I talked about this with Kyle yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw this, but it's, I believe, 2nd and 25 after many, many holding penalties on the part of another guy that I'm sure you guys should have on your downs. I didn't put him on mine, but 2nd and 25, Brandon Bolden takes the carry, does a bunch of jump cuts, and gets about 12 yards on it. And it was a very, 16 yards. And I know that because Greg Gumbel goes, and he gets there for a first down. And then they show the replay showing how Brandon Bolden's eluding tacklers, and it looks really good. And they cut back, and it says 3rd and 9. I'm like, the chains.
It was a Booger
There are
McFarland
2
moment.
chains, Greg. He got past the first set of chains because they were behind the sticks. And he goes, for a first down. And it just says 3rd and 9. I'm like, is this really what we have to work with? Thank God.
3rd
Oh,
and 10.
man.
Give me more Nance
3rd
and
and
Romo.
10.
Even though Romo sounds like he's drunk on the broadcast these days, at
Good.
least we get. There's so much
I'm
better.
happy
It's so
for
much
him.
better than
Probably is.
Gumbel and Archuleta.
He deserves it.
All right. Any other solitary downs that you guys want to add, Kyle? You can go here.
Isaiah Wynn, of course, you mentioned
Yep.
him earlier. And Jonnu Smith. He continues to be irrelevant. It's upsetting. Like one catch for 4 yards.
Didn't
on
he
2
also get
targets.
hurt?
He's been hurt
I
for
don't
like
believe
3 or
so.
4
I thought
weeks.
that
He's been
He-
battling
on
with a
Mike
knee.
Reese's like recap. I swear to God, I saw.
If that's the excuse
It
they're
wouldn't
using
surprise
now,
me.
then sure, yeah.
He's
hurt.
had injuries left and right this season.
He was on next to the little ambulance that Mike Reese does. It was Gunner,
Yeah.
Harris, Jonnu, and Ramondre.
Man.
Jordan.
Well,
Sorry.
Jonnu Smith just still continues to be very underwhelming, and it's very sad because he was the first domino to fall this offseason,
Yeah.
and we were all so excited about him. And at least Hunter Henry, touchdown, good performance, but come on, Jonnu, we need something out of you.
Yeah, it's like he like almost has to be schemed open, and and they don't really run their offense a way that would scheme him open ever because they use Hunter Henry so much and all these other dink and dunk
thank
plays.
God they got Hunter Henry at this
Right.
point. I mean, maybe if they didn't sign Henry, Jonnu would be a lot more useful,
Yeah.
but
He probably would be, but how much he's outside of last game. I think I looked at his numbers and he was pretty much on par in terms of receptions and yards per game for what he was his entire career, which is a little bit concerning considering he got paid so much money. But my down that we haven't mentioned yet was I thought, given how great the running backs played overall, Damian Harris was incredibly sad. Like 15 carries for 30 yards. He did have the touchdown in the first quarter or the
Stevenson
second
should've got
quarter.
it.
Yeah,
But
he should have.
he did not play very well at all, and I know he's hurt. But he's been so boomer bust this season, and I know running backs are really volatile players, but he was really, really bad yesterday.
I think it was partially due to the fact that it felt like whenever he came in, the big heavy personnel were in as well, and it was a little bit of a telegraph problem where the Panthers just loaded up and absolutely stoned him, whereas Stevenson and Bolden had a little bit more room to work with, but I don't know if that was due to game plan or just because Harris had an off day. I'm going to transition here a little bit to a different topic, but still obviously Patriots related. We want to focus on the bigger picture because obviously, this win, not exactly shocking. We all picked the Patriots to win. Darnold looked like he was seeing ghosts again, which was very funny, but also doesn't really give us a lot of insight into this Patriots team as to whether it was good Patriots versus bad Panthers. But I just want to speak for me personally and say I'm starting to believe again, and it feels real good. Feels real good to believe again in this team. It's starting to feel like they're building into what I expected them to be preseason. After they cut Cam Newton and we knew that Mac Jones was going to be the starting quarterback, what did everybody say? They're going to go win with defense. They're going to try and help out their rookie quarterback and make it so that way he doesn't commit a bunch of mistakes now. A turnover on the wrong side of the field and an interception to Stephon Gilmore, big mistakes. You've got to clean it up because you were god-awful yesterday, Mac. But the defense is really starting to come together. I mean, they're not just beating these quarterbacks, they are harassing the crap out of them. I mean, 3 weeks in a row, the Jets guys, Justin Herbert, Sam Darnold, all of them looked absolutely god-awful. Mike White was the best one, and he's an NPC.
Yeah, and Herbert being in that, if it were just the last two games and it was the Jets and then Sam Darnold yesterday, that's like those are all Jets guys. But anyway, but you add Herbert in there, that it makes it's almost like, oh, you're beating up on people you should, and then, you also beat up on Justin Herbert too. So it's more of it validates the whole thing.
And keep in mind, Justin Herbert yesterday against the Eagles, 32 of 38, 356 yards, and 3 total touchdowns, 2 passing and 1 on the ground. So, I mean, that's starting to, that week against the Patriots. I mean, the Ravens did it too to an extent, but both of those games start to look like more and more outliers. And where the Ravens sit right now, atop the AFC North. I'm starting to believe again. I'm starting to really think that this team could make a little bit of noise in the playoffs. By no means am I saying they're a Super Bowl contender, but I'm really liking what I'm seeing. Does it feel to you guys like whenever they go out from week to week, you kind of know what you're going to get with the Patriots, whereas especially last year, it was hit or miss. You didn't know what you were going to get. Does anyone want to take it first here?
I mean, I'll go first only because last week I had them as my team that were the least predictable. I still don't know what I'm going to get. I mean, but this time I will say it's in a good way. Because last year we're like, oh God, like how are they going to blow it this year? Or how are they going to blow it this week? This week it's like, hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe they'll have it today. Maybe they'll be on it. They're basically, they kind of just play up and down to their opponents. And, I mean, that's not the best way to make the playoffs. But, I mean, as of right now, I mean, as we're recording, the Steelers, I believe, are still winning.
Yeah.
So that's not good for the Pats because that means that they'll stay in 7th and they'll be fighting with Kansas City for the 7th seed.
That's fine. The division's open.
The division's open, but at the same time, like
we'll get to that later.
You're gonna need to the teams behind them. They're 5-4. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-4 teams behind them, and then Indy, who could easily rebound, and obviously Denver, who could easily fall off, and Cleveland, who knows. It's gonna be one of those things where they're gonna need to start being a little bit more consistent and a little bit more, knowing what we can expect from them if they're gonna be able to make that push. I mean, they're probably looking at like a 6 or a 7 seed in the playoffs. But it's not going to be an easy route to get there.
Well, I think that their schedule for the end of the year kind of plays into that exact notion. I mean, they have 2 games in these next 2 weeks where they could feasibly win, the Browns and the Falcons. Then they face the Titans, which is a tough matchup. And then they face the Bills in Buffalo. But then they have an off week. So these next 4 weeks, I think, are really what is going to kind of predict the rest of the season. As long as they go 2-2 in those weeks, I am still, if they beat the teams that they should, and there are close games in the Titans and the Bills games, then I really think that this team has a chance to make it into the playoffs, which I'm scared to say, but like I'm excited to say it too.
And that's part of the reason that I said I'm starting to buy back in on this team, because despite the fact that they looked god-awful for major stretches of that game yesterday, specifically the beginning when they just kept shooting themselves in the foot, delay of game penalties, holdings, turnovers, they're doing what they're supposed to do if you're a good team, which is knock off the bad teams. It may be ugly, but if you win, you win, because it's not college football, and you're not trying to build a resume, as Kyle told me yesterday, so he was absolutely accurate. Like, if you win, you win. And I'm starting to get a little bit more confident in this team week by week. And part of me wonders, is it because of the defense? I wonder after that Cowboys game where you gave up a like 23 yards on a 3rd and 25 to lead to a game-tying field goal by Greg Zuerlein, did Bill Belichick just say, enough of this crap, get out of here, Steve, and then just started taking charge of the defense? I don't know if you guys have noticed, but on the broadcast, a lot less Steve Belichick playing with his face in the camera shots last couple of weeks.
Still too much, though.
It's very much too much. There was only one sighting yesterday, and it was still too much.
Oh, and I was awake for it.
I think Bill is starting to take a little bit more control of his defense, and that might be part of the reason. I mean, it was a classic Belichick game plan to knock off Justin Herbert last week, and now you have them smoking Sam Darnold like they normally do. That may have an effect on it. Jordan, you're the one person I haven't gone to yet on this. Are you starting to buy back in?
Well, yeah, I said last week that I was before the Patriots even beat the Chargers. I said they win this game, I'm buying back in. Well, they won the game, so I bought back in a little bit. And then not only did they beat the Panthers, they beat the living daylights out of them. I mean, 24-6. It felt like from what I had seen and what I had watched in highlights after the fact, it felt like 40. Like they literally, you had no reason to believe the Panthers were going to put up any points in that game. The Patriots just...
There was one reason. Me and Kyle were rooting hard for our score predictions. I had 27-12. He had 27-13. So we needed the Patriots to kick the field goal. The Nick Folk, like 50-something yarder that he pulled wide right. If he had made that, we needed Darnold to go down and get a touchdown, and then I needed a missed extra point. Kyle needed it made, and we would have had it in the bag. We thought there was a chance because there was like 12 minutes left in the game.
I thought there was a chance, and then I watched Darnold try to throw, and I was like, oh well, they're not getting down. I don't think the Pats are going to kick another field goal. So.
Yeah, but I've bought back into it, and I think what is good about the team right now is they're still relatively young in the sense that Mac Jones is a rookie quarterback. I don't think their receivers are overly old. Jonu's still relatively young. Hunter Henry's probably the oldest skill position player they have on the roster, and he's playing really well. But
Odell coming in,
Odell's signing tomorrow probably. But anyway, what I like with teams that are kind of in I would consider this more of a bridge year. Next year is where they really kind of are supposed to take off. Are the guys you have signed to long-term contracts playing well? And I would say everyone outside of Jonnu Smith is to this point. I mean, because we've seen it even with Aguilar. He's played well. Mills for stretches has looked really good. Like I said, Hunter Henry's been good. A lot of these guys have been good. And then also, are you in games that are you down to the wire in games you lose? And I think they're really a hop, skip, and a jump away from being 7-2 at this point in the season. Like I know obviously you're
good. You mean, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I mean even Miami, so that's 8-1. You don't fumble the ball, you kick the field goal, you win the game. So, but you're as good as the record says you are. They're 5-4, but I feel really good about their 5-4. Whereas if they were 5-4 through 9 weeks last year, I would have felt a lot worse about it.
Well, you bring up a good point, and this is the one thing I want to get to before we get into 10 questions here. Relative to expectations at the start of the year, this is the unofficial midway point. They played 9 games out of 17. That still feels weird to say. But this is basically the halfway point for them. Give me a grade on the Patriots season so far relative to expectations that you had at the start of the year. I'm going to lead and let you guys think about that. I predicted that they would go 10-7. I thought their max record that they could get to is 11-6. I look at the schedule. I still think that's possible if they can pull off a couple of wins. Tennessee coming into New England is a massive, massive help for you that it's not in Nashville. Miami, at the end of the season in Miami, will still be hard because of the heat, and the 2 Buffalo games speak for themselves. Outside of that, the Patriots should be able to run the table on basically anybody else that they face, if they play up to the talent level that they've shown the past 3 weeks. They have played well enough to win all of those games with the roster that they've had playing for the last month or so. In and of themselves, the wins that they've had, even the Chargers one, you can look at and say, well, maybe, it's not, it's okay. The Jets win, you would say, it's just a crap franchise that you beat up on perennially. But when you string them together like this, Bill Belichick's mantra of stacking days really starts to take effect, and you can see it. So I'm going to give them a B. I can't give them higher than that because I expected them to win games early in the year that they didn't, Miami and the Saints. But they're starting to bring it together at a time where I think that they need to, and they can go and kind of pivot towards this stretch run and do as much damage as they can in an AFC that is just absolutely wide open. Jordan, I went last with you last time, so I'm going to let you go here now.
Yeah, I'm in the same. I'm in the same boat as you. I said that they were probably going to be somewhere between 9 and 11 wins with an absolute ceiling of 12. Like I thought that maybe they'd steal one that they just really had no business of winning. I'm going to go with a B+ grade because, like you said, I still see them getting to the expectations I had at preseason during the preseason. But the reason why it's a B+ is because despite losing those very winnable games early in the season, I didn't think there was a shot in hell they'd beat the Chargers, and and again, garbage time touchdown. That score was a lot wider.
And
of a
Herbert was
margin
never
than
in
you thought
that
it was.
game either.
Herbert was horrible outside of maybe the first drive. After the first drive, it was like night and day. Herbert was nasty on that first drive. Eckler, carried everybody into the end zone on that first drive, and then after there was just nothing. So I give them a B+ because I think, given the games they've won in the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, it's almost outweighed the games they lost. And really, when I say games, I mean Miami specifically. But yeah.
Jaclyn.
I would give them a solid B. I don't even remember what my preseason expectations were for them, but I know I've been high on Mac Jones this whole time, ever since he was drafted. And so I feel like he has kind of lived up to those expectations, but the defense hasn't lived up to my expectations until the past 2 or 3 weeks. And so because of that, it's a B, but it's a high B. It's an 86.8. So if I were a professor and I would round it, it would round to a B+ on the final grade. You know what I mean?
Yep. Kyle.
Oh, you're not an ASU professor.
Wrap us up here.
Yeah, I mean, I had a B for them pretty much. I didn't really have a season prediction, but I did bet them. I bet the over on 9.5, so I guess I was expecting at least 10. I think that's where they'll be. It's what I'm hoping for. But
Your wallet's hoping for.
Well, I mean, I didn't put that much on it. I'm not gonna be broke, but
fair enough.
I wasn't that
bet the rent.
confident. I wasn't that confident in
You
Cam
bet the
Newton
red
at
on
the time.
Renfro.
Exactly. But no, they definitely exceeded my expectations. They're fun to watch. I'm kind of in the same boat I was with the Red Sox this year, where I just wanted to be able to enjoy watching the games, and even in their defeats, I felt optimistic. Losing, except for the Dolphins and the Saints game, but losing to the Bucks felt like that was still a fun game. The Cowboys game is still great, and even right now, Mac Jones is going through a pretty rough slump, I would argue. He's really showing his rookie growing pains, and the Pats have still been able to win, which I think is really important.
They rallied behind him too, which is huge.
All right, guys, we had technical issues. Not going to be able to get the 10 questions in. We're going to do it on Wednesday and get a new segment in. But this was our Patriots reaction episode. We hope to see you guys again later in the week, where we're going to do more football and then a baseball episode after. Have a good one, everybody.